Good afternoon YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another video, and today's video was actually a requested video. I made a video last week about why I think the Seahawks are very strong Super Bowl contenders, and so this week's video is all of the teams that I believe are strong Super Bowl contenders. How I set it up is I have the AFC and the NFC. Both divisions have a 100% chance of having a team make it to the Super Bowl. So I have the wild card teams and the three best on separate levels. And so what I'm doing is I'm combining the wild card teams and the other teams to hopefully reach about 100%. But there will be a chance for other teams to win the Super Bowl, even though I don't think that it's very likely. So it won't reach exactly 100% for my total predictions. But that's how I did my odds for this video. So let's get right into it. First we have the AFC, and there are 5 teams that I believe are strong wild card contenders: the Patriots, the Texans, the Titans, the Bills, and the Browns. Those 5 teams have a greater advantage over the other teams because they all have a stronger chance of making it to the playoffs. The Patriots, Texans, Titans, and Bills, I believe, all have a very strong chance of making it to the playoffs. 2 of those teams are guaranteed to make it to the playoffs because there's only 2 divisions between them. The Patriots and the Texans, I believe, have a better chance of winning their respective divisions because they have easier schedules than the other teams in their divisions. That's the plain and simple fact. I believe that the Patriots and Bills have very similar teams, but I think that the Bills' schedule is harder than the Patriots' schedule. I think that the Texans and Titans have very similar teams, but I think that the Texans' schedule is easier than the Titans' schedule. I put the Patriots above the Texans because I think that the Patriots team is a little bit better, and the Texans division is a little bit tougher. And I put the Titans slightly above the Bills because I think that, again, the Patriots are a slightly better team than the Texans, which means that the Bills have to work extra hard to get that spot than the Titans do. I think that all 4 of those teams are very similar, but since I think that the Patriots and the Texans have the extra edge on the other teams, that's why their percentages are a little bit higher. I think that the Browns have the worst chances of making it to the Super Bowl of any of these wild card teams. But I think that their chances are still fairly good at about 5 or 6%. I think that the Browns are in the hardest division in the AFC, which would make the road to the Super Bowl extremely hard. But I think that they have a better chance of making the playoffs than some of the other teams. And I think that because their division is so hard, even if they were to make the playoffs, they would be on an almost even playing field, even with some of the tougher divisions, some of the tougher teams in the playoffs, because their team is going to be good this season. I think that Baker Mayfield's going to have a comeback year, and I think that they're going to do very well for themselves. I don't think that they're going to be the best team in the league, hence 1 in 18 chance, but I think that they're better than most of the AFC West, to be frank. Half of the AFC East and half of the AFC South. I think that the AFC North has the hardest division, and that's why I have 2 division winners in the wild cards and 2 AFC North teams in the best teams in the league. Now, if you look at the AFC Hot Heads, which is what I wanted to call the top 3 teams, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Steelers, I believe, all have very similar team lookouts. They all have amazing offenses and very strong defenses. I think that the Chiefs' offense is a little bit better and their defense is a little bit worse. And I think that Ben Roethlisberger will be interesting to watch this season because he hasn't played in a year. So these are all interesting things to take into account. But I put the Chiefs, it all came down to the Chiefs division is easier. I think that the Chiefs have a better chance of being the number 1 seed because their schedule is going to be easier. And they have a better chance at winning their division because the Ravens or the Steelers could win the AFC North. I'm not sure which of the 2 teams is going to win the division, so I can't put one of them above the other because I think that they both have very strong and very similar teams. But I do know that the Chiefs have the best chance of winning the Super Bowl because they have the best chance of being a 1 or 2 seeded team, and they have the best chance of being the 1 seeded team, quite frankly. So having that all-important bye week is very important to making it to the Super Bowl. So I think that Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner are going to be electric this season. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to do the same thing this year as he did last year. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to do what he's been doing the past 2 seasons, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the standings end up falling by the end of the season. The Ravens and the Steelers are both going to have strong teams. The Chiefs are going to have a strong team. In the playoffs, home field doesn't matter a ton, but it can really change the complexion of the game if there are fans. Again, fans are going to be another thing that we'll need to take into account by the time the season starts. We'll need to see if the playoffs will have fans, and if they do, how much will they actually be affecting things. And I think that all of these teams are very similar in the geography, so neither of them will really get an upper hand based off of the weather, unless the Steelers have the home field advantage because they are, of course, farther north. But so those are my AFC predictions. I have much fewer teams in my wild cards in the AFC than I do in the NFC, and I also think that the AFC percent chance that one of those 8 teams will be in the Super Bowl is much lower than the chance that one of the 10 NFC teams that I have on this list will make the Super Bowl, because I think that the AFC teams are much more mediocre and can fight each other out for those spots. I think that the NFC teams are split into really good and really bad, and so it's going to be very hard for the teams that I don't think to be very good or very well off to make it to the Super Bowl. So there's a very slim chance that anyone in the NFC, besides the 10 I list, will make it to the Super Bowl. I think that there's a much greater chance that someone that I don't list in the AFC will make it to the Super Bowl. So those are my AFC predictions. Let's move on to the NFC. AFC settled, let's go on to the NFC. So like I said, I have a lot more NFC wildcard contenders than I do AFC wildcard contenders. I have a total of 7. As opposed to AFC's 5. I have the Cowboys, the Bucks, the Niners, the Vikings, the Rams, the Eagles, and the Falcons. And yes, I grouped them together like that on purpose. So I believe that the Cowboys could be a top-tier contender because they have a very good chance of winning the division, but the Eagles won their division last year. And considering that fact, I can't put them as a top-tier contender because I don't think that they had a top-tier team last season. I think that with a new coach and a burning fire to prove their team's ability and their offense's incredible ability with the players that they will have a really good season. That being said, I can't put all four division winners in the top 3, so they have the same record as the Patriots at 9-7, because I believe that they will be the weakest division winner in the NFC, just like the Patriots were in the AFC at 1-9 chance. The Bucks and the Niners have an equal chance at 1-13, because I believe they'll both lose their division to the Saints and the Seahawks respectively, but they're still going to have very solid teams, possibly better than the Cowboys. But the Cowboys will have that higher seeding, which will give them a better chance of having a home game in the playoffs. And those home games can be very crucial later in the playoffs and possibly the NFC Championship game or the divisional round. The Vikings, I have put a 1-14 chance because they're not as good as the other 2 teams, but I believe they also might have a better chance of winning their division. So even though they're not as good as the Niners and the Bucks, I think they have a better chance of winning their division against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers than the Bucks and the Niners do against the Saints or the Seahawks. I put the Rams at 1-14 because out of the number 3 teams in the NFC, I think that the Rams have the best team. I think that the Rams have a better team than the Falcons, even though I think that the Falcons also have almost an equal chance of making it to the playoff, of winning their division. I think that the Rams have a much better chance of making it to the playoffs than the Falcons do, getting that wild card spot. The Eagles, finally, are the last team of controversy. I know that a lot of people love Carson Wentz, and a lot of people think that the Eagles are amazing. I personally disagree. I think that Carson Wentz is a mediocre quarterback on a mediocre team. I think that they made the playoffs last year because Dak Prescott, although had an amazing season, couldn't win games. I think that he's going to overcome that this year, go 10-6, and there's not going to be an issue. I think that Dak Prescott's going to lead his team to the playoffs in the number 4 spot, and I think that they're going to have a very strong chance of making it to the Super Bowl, as opposed to the rest of the teams on this list. Finally, we have the NFC top tier targets. Yes, I made a rhyme. Hope you guys liked it. So, in the NFC, I think that it's very different than the AFC. I think that the 10 contenders have a 97% chance of making it to the playoffs. 10 of the 16 teams make up 97% of the Super Bowl chances. I think in the more open, the AFC has an 87% chance, not a 97% chance, 87% chance of their 8 teams making it to the Super Bowl, not a 97% chance of their 10 teams. I think that there's more good teams in the NFC that are going to drown out the little guys. I think that there's more mediocre teams in the AFC that are going to leave doors wide open to the playoffs for some of the worst teams. But speaking of the NFC top teams, again, I have the Seahawks at 1-5, the Saints at 1-7, and the Packers at 1-8. I think that the Seahawks clearly have the best team in the NFC. I think that their offense is electric. I think Russell Wilson is going to not have the MVP this season, because that never coincides with the Super Bowl. But I think that he's going to have one of the best teams in the league. He's going to have one of the best offenses in the league. He's possibly going to throw for have a total of 5,000 yards between rushing and passing, and he's going to have an incredible season. He's made it to the playoffs every single not to the playoffs, but he's had a winning record every single season of his 8-year career. No quarterback's ever done that before, including Tom Brady. The Saints are at 1-7 because, again, Drew Brees' reputation precedes him. So does Aaron Rodgers. But I think that at this point in time, Russell Wilson, the quarterback who has never had a losing season, is the best of those 3 quarterbacks and has the best chance of making it to the Super Bowl, even though the Saints' offense has so much more weaponry and firepower than the Seahawks. I think that they both have insane offenses and are going to be major threats in the late playoff game. So as for the Seahawks, Saints, and Packers, I put the Packers as the lowest of the 3 because their team wasn't as good last year. I know that they did very well, but I think that the Seahawks and the Saints have stronger teams than the Packers do. I also think that the Seahawks have the easiest record of the 3. Yes, I think that the Seahawks have the easiest schedule. My apologies. I think the Seahawks schedule is extremely easy for a team of their caliber because they got second place in their division last year. So they're going to be against all the other teams that got second place in their division, not in the NFC, not the teams that got first place in their division. That's going to give them a broader window to win more games more easily and get that number 1 spot. The Saints and Packers have to play the number 1 teams, including themselves, as well as the 49ers and the Eagles, which I think is going to be a harder feat to conquer than the Seahawks, who need to play easier teams, such as, in this case, I think the Cowboys are harder, but they have to play the Vikings, and they need to play the Falcons. And I think that those are easier teams to beat than the teams that the Saints and the Packers have to play against. The Seahawks are also against the AFC East, which I think is one of the easier divisions in the AFC. So that's going to be an interesting schedule matchup for the Seahawks, which I think that they will be able to just wipe away, and go 14 or 15 and 1 or 2. That's those are my predictions for the NFC Super Bowl and AFC Super Bowl contenders. So if you agree with my predictions, let me know. If you don't, who do you think is the top contender for the Super Bowl? You can't say that, and if you're watching this, don't say that I think the Seahawks are better than the Chiefs, because I put the Seahawks at 1-5 and the Chiefs at 1-6. The NFC and the AFC have two very different grading systems for me. I think that all of the top tier teams are very similar, all 6 of them, in their own respects, and that's why they're all so similar in their percentage chance of making it to the Super Bowl. But because the NFC has a different lookout than the AFC, I think that the Seahawks have a better chance of making it to the Super Bowl than the Chiefs do. So if you like my video, please hit the like button. Comment down below who you think is going to make it to the Super Bowl. I was not able to make a video earlier today because I was on a hike with my family. It was a lot of fun. We climbed Mount Monadnock, and I really enjoyed it. So if you could leave a like, that would be great. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. And NBA season started yesterday, so check out the NBA games. The bubble games are being played as we speak. Right now the Celtics are losing to the Bucks, so I'm gonna go watch that. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.